Military chaplains offer solace and hope to the people who defend our freedom. But right now, today, their freedom is under attack. Hi, I'm Stuart Shepard, and this is First Liberty Live. If you appreciate the work that we're doing through First Liberty Live, can I get you to do something? Would you please like and share our videos? Your friends, if you're interested in this, your friends are going to be interested as well, and family members. So if you'd share it along, that's how we get to meet new people and get the word spread out there. And it also gives us a way to get around those in social media who want to keep our messages from getting to people. You can help make sure that it gets through by liking and sharing the work that we do. Our guest today, I'm really looking forward to hearing from. Ron Cruz is the founding member and former executive director of the Chaplain Alliance for Religious Liberty. The alliance represents more than half of all the chaplains in the military, so he's speaking for a lot of people when he talks. He also served as a chaplain in the U.S. Army. He's been right alongside us in our work here at First Liberty Institute for a long time, joining us in briefs, signing on to them, and also writing letters of support in numerous cases involving chaplains, including a recent win that we're going to talk about. Hi, Ron.
Hello, Stuart. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. A lot of questions for you today, but speaking of cases your organization spoke into, we recently got a favorable outcome in a case involving Chaplain Andrew Calvert. He expressed something, a thought on his personal Facebook page, and then faced a very serious reprimand for it. And we got a successful outcome, got them to back off, clear that off his record. But the larger question I wanted to ask you about is, we seem to be in an era where the government increasingly wants to restrict the freedom of chaplains to express the very tenets of the faith that they hold to.
That's exactly right. We are living in a difficult time for military chaplains, particularly evangelical Christian chaplains who have a mandate from their Savior to be open about their faith and to share their faith. And chaplains have been doing this, as we'll discuss later, 246 years in our military. We want our chaplains to be able to speak freely about their faith. And that's why we need organizations like yourself to stand with those chaplains when they come under attack for doing what they're required to do by their Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
And other faiths as well. I mean, chaplain, you don't just represent Christian missionaries, or Christian chaplains rather, through the work that you do. It goes across many different faiths.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point of chaplaincy, to either perform or provide, as the military language we use, that chaplains either perform those rites that they can do, baptisms, marriages, weddings, but if they cannot, if a soldier from another faith group, then the chaplain is responsible to make sure they can live out their faith or non-faith. Chaplains are there to support the military personnel wherever they are.
Now, Chaplain Calvert, that I mentioned, posted something on his personal Facebook page. It was in keeping with his beliefs, according to his faith. It was also, at the time, in keeping with the official Department of Defense policy. I mean, it was perfectly right down the line with all of those, yet he still faced a reprimand. This is not a one-off. I hear from you that there are others going through the same thing.
Exactly. I had a chaplain that I endorsed in a similar unit at Fort Benning, who basically was sharing his personal story of faith in a suicide awareness brief and received a reprimand and a full 15-6 military people will know what that means, investigation, meaning it was going before a general officer. I contacted Mike there at Mike Berry at First Liberty, and through his help, I went down and visited the commander. Mike sent a letter. And we eventually got those charges dropped, which was the right thing to do. But these are just two examples. There are many examples right now, unfortunately, of chaplains who have come under fire simply for living out their faith and wearing a cross on their uniform.
Right now, there are members of Congress who are they're holding hearings. Mike Berry participated in one of those hearings recently about the idea of redefining extremism in the military and opposing it. Now, most of us, when we hear that, we think of our own personal definition of what an extremist is, and we think, well, that seems like a good idea. But what's critical here is who does the defining of what it is to be an extremist. Tell me a little bit more about that as you see it playing out.
Several years ago, I had a soldier sent me a slide from a presentation that he was required to attend on about diversity in the military and showing respect. And on that slide was a list of extremist organizations. And the top three included Roman Catholics and evangelical Christians. Now, we were above the ranking of the Taliban and Islamic forces that were, I could not believe the slide
Wow.
when I saw it, and it was being taught at a military unit. I sent that slide to members of Congress who held a hearing on it at that time. I testified, Mike Berry testified, and we eventually got an apology, and that training supposedly went away. However, we are now back in an environment where those concerns about who defines extremism is very real. And so I appreciate the work that Mike is doing, being on that commission to define extremism.
Some people might ask, why is it so important for people of faith to have the opportunity to worship and also receive guidance from like-minded chaplains when they serve, if they choose to? I mean, it's a voluntary thing. Why can't they just go to the church down the street? Why is it so important to have chaplains?
Well, number one, the chaplain wears the same uniform that the soldier or airman or Marine wears. Further, the chaplain is out there in the trenches. The chaplain goes where they go. If they deploy, the chaplain deploys with them. The pastor at First Church right off post, when that unit is deployed to a mission overseas, that pastor can't go with them. The chaplain goes with them. And that's been the heart of the chaplain corps since the founding of this nation.
As we talk about this on July 29th, it's the anniversary of the Army Chaplain Corps. Give us a little history lesson here. How far back does this go?
Well, exactly. The Chaplain Corps came out of the faith of our first commander-in-chief, George Washington. When he was commander and was appointed commander of the colonial forces by Congress in June of 1775, one of his first acts was to request of Congress funds so that chaplains could accompany the troops as they were fighting for our independence. Congress authorized the Chaplain Corps on July 29th, 1775. So the Chaplain Corps is older than our country.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing that happened is this. George Washington was an Anglican. The colony he came from, Virginia, had a state religion, Anglicanism. It was against the law to be anything other than Anglican. But Washington knew that revolutionary soldiers were coming from multiple faith backgrounds. So he insisted that there not be just Anglicans, but he welcomed chaplains of a variety of faiths to ensure that his soldiers would be able to worship God. He even issued a general order requiring that services be held in every brigade where there were chaplains. That's still in our records. And that he wanted, in his words, our soldiers to live as good Christians. Those were his words back in 1776 when he issued that order.
Go
Our
ahead.
Chaplain Corps predates our country, and we have had 25,000 chaplains to serve in our history, to over 25 million military people in every conflict that this nation has endured. Chaplains have been there.
Part of our history is that idea of the free exercise of religion, but then we move all the way to today, and they look back at that history and they say, well, you know, no matter that George Washington was okay with chaplains being paid service members to get a salary for the work that they do, they're now trying to argue that the founders would oppose that idea, that the idea of government paying the salaries of chaplains is somehow a violation of, and I'm putting in air quotes, the separation of the church and state, that somehow that's establishing a religion, to use the language of the First Amendment. How do you see it?
Well, a couple of Harvard Law School students a number of years ago began a suit to say that having a paid military chaplaincy was unconstitutional. Grateful that judges eventually ruled against them, and they stated specifically why we have chaplains is because we require our military people to go to places where they cannot receive help in their faith, and that only chaplains can provide that help in combat situations and in deployment situations. And so we are not establishing a religion. We are enabling military personnel to exercise their faith, their constitutional right to live out their faith even while they're wearing a uniform.
Now, you've worked alongside First Liberty Institute in the work that you do for a very long time. What's that relationship like? What was it like from the outside working with First Liberty?
Well, I'm so grateful, and my chaplains are grateful. I've heard from several of our chaplains. I am so grateful to know that I can be bold in my faith, knowing that someone has my back, or in the military terminology, has my six, meaning I'm covered. Yeah. And I am so grateful that First Liberty has had the foresight to hire someone like Mike Berry, who is a Marine Corps JAG officer, experience on active duty, as well as now in the reserves, who knows the military system. And so when I call Mike about a situation, he knows exactly the regulations that are involved, and he can speak military language to military commanders in a forceful and intelligent and winsome way. It has just been a joy to work with him and with First Liberty.
Well, it's our honor to work alongside you, Ron, in the work that you've done for so many years. We appreciate that you are also standing up for chaplains and helping meet their needs in the service.
It is my joy. I've been a chaplain endorser now since I retired for 12 years.
Explain what that means, to be a chaplain endorser.
Every chaplain who serves on military, in the military has to be endorsed by a recognized endorsing agency by the Department of Defense. Yeah. So the Southern Baptist Convention has one endorsing agent. I represent a group called Grace Churches International. We have a number of chaplains in all the branches of service scattered around the world. And I pastor and endorser pastors military chaplains. We coach them, mentor them, help them in their military career, and are there for counsel for them.
Explain. Before I let you go, I want to give you a chance to explain the work of the Chaplain Alliance for Religious Liberty. What do you do?
Chaplain Alliance for Religious Liberty is a coalition of chaplain endorsers who are from evangelical faith groups that we formed a few years ago when we saw attacks on military chaplains coming. And so we formed in order to be able to speak with one voice before Congress, before the Department of Defense, before the media and the public, to say we are concerned about our chaplains to be able to live out their faith as they enable military personnel to live out their faith.
Very good. Ron Cruz, great seeing you again. Good to hear from you. Anything else you'd like to share before I let you go?
Just thank you so much, Stuart. It's good to see you again. And thanks again to the great work that First Liberty is doing, ensuring that not only military chaplains, but all military personnel can live out their faith without fear of retribution.
Thanks again, Ron. Good to see you. Appreciate your time.
Bless.
Hey, if defending religious freedom in the military is an important aspect of your life, if that's something that you're concerned about and want to see happen in the real world, know that that is an important aspect of our work here at First Liberty Institute as well. If you look in the text that goes along with this video, you'll find a link to articles from our FLI Insider about the work that we do in the military sphere, and that's where you can dig deeper and get a better idea of the work that we do. Again, just look for that in the text that goes along with this video. And if you'd like to be part of our work here at First Liberty, defending the rights of not only chaplains, but service members across all the branches of the military to be able to live out in an appropriate time and place their faith as they serve, please go to firstlibertylive.com, look for the big red Give button and click on that. You can be part of our effort to make sure that they have the freedoms guaranteed to them that are also guaranteed to us, the ones that they're fighting to defend for all of us. So that's what we've got for today. Hey, we will see you next week, next Thursday, right here on First Liberty Live.